Hey guys, Phil Baumhart here. So for today's video, I'll be doing another D-guard Bowie knife. So I've made D-guards in the past on this channel. This one's going to be a little bit special because it's going to be modeled off of a very specific one that I saw. So this spring I was at a knife show that also had a antiques arm show in the same room as well. So they had a lot of World War II, Civil War guns and knives and uniforms and stuff like that. So there was one gentleman that was selling some knives that were Civil War era, and he had a large D-guard Bowie, and he was kind enough to take it out of the case, show it to me, let me take some pictures. And it was just your standard clip point Bowie knife, but for the D-guard it had a snake motif that the smith had forged into that guard. So my guess is just some local smith in the South and decided to do this type of guard for the knife that he was making for somebody. So I'm going to try to replicate that for this build. You know, the normal kind of curly Q at the top of the guard was the snake's head. He had some snake scales on the actual knuckle guard itself, and then the end where the guard connects to the handle by the back of the hand was the snake's tail. So I'll probably have to make some tools to do the sculpting, if you will, of the scales and the eyes and all that, so that should be interesting. And this is also a custom build, so I'm building this for a customer. He asked for a antler handle, so I've got a nice piece of straight elk antler that I'll be doing for the handle. So I got all my knives using ADCR V2. The stock I'm starting with is 2 inches wide, 3/16 of an inch thick, and the customer is looking for an 18-inch long blade. So it should be sort of my standard fare with a little bit of a twist. So we'll get this hot, see what I can make.
Alright, so we should be good to go on our preform. Now we can forge the edge bevels.
Alright, so we got the point forged out on our blade. Next thing to do will be forge in the tang. So the customer wants a 18-inch long blade, so I've got 18 inches marked off here from the tip to right about there. So I'll put a marking in with a file so that when I heat this up I know where I'm going. For a hidden tang like this I only need about 2.5 inches of this 2-inch wide material to make the tang, so I'll just get it cut off right here and get it back in the forge. Okay, so we got the blade and tang finished up. We got enough length on that that we'll be able to peen that over. So next step that I'm going to do is the guard, and for that I'm going to use some 3/4 inch square stock, and that's 3/4 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick. So pretty stout piece of metal for the guard. I'm going to try to draw out the actual knuckle bow section just a little bit, give it a little bit of a radius, kind of widen that out, because that's what's in the example I'm going off of, and it'll also kind of lend itself to kind of the snake shape. So we'll try the thicker piece of steel. I think that'll work good for doing the engravings and stuff like that, and it'll just be a little bit easier to work with. I don't want to use anything that's too terribly thin. And I think what I'll do is start with the snake head. So we'll put a little bit of a taper on the end there, use the fullering tool to kind of put in the back of the head area on the snake. I'll have to do some eyes, and then the historic example has got some scale engraving, so need a tool, make a tool. Got some scrap 80 CRV2, that's 1/4 inch thick, so pretty stout piece, and I'll draw that out kind of into a chisel shape that widens out there, and then probably using the swage block I'll try to do that half moon shape, putting in the scale impression. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so that should be good for the basic head shape of the snake. So now we'll get the fullering tool and we'll put in that back of the head shape. Okay, so I used the horn to try to get a little more width out of this very back area. So in the example, it's got a little more of a heart shape. So this is 1/4 inch piece of steel. I do have some more room to work with, so I think we'll give that another heat and see what happens. Okay, so for doing the eyeballs, I've got this crappy old awl that I've already screwed up by using it for forging. But it was already pretty flattened out at the top. Cleaned it up with a file, then took a Dremel ball burr, kind of put a circular indent in there. Doing a close-up look at the photo example, that's kind of how the snake eye is set up, so I'm going to try to replicate that. What I need to do is just sort of thin out this neck area, and then it'll widen out again when the blade fits into the guard. I think that's it. Pretty good shape. This will curl up that way, and then the slit for the guard will go right here. Okay, so we're in good shape. I'll open this up with some files before I do all the scale work and the curvature. So I'll let this cool down. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to get working on my scale making tool.
Alright, so that's what we got. I think if I clean that up on the grinder just a little bit, that'll give me the shape I'm looking for. Okay, so now I'm just going through and drawing out the knuckle, the actual knuckle bow itself, trying to widen that out, just like the historic example. And I'll come back, put the scale patterns in. Alright, so this is where the end of the dig art's going to be. This is going to taper off, become the tail, and also the integrated lanyard loop. happy with the shape of the guard. Now we're going to take this tail, loop it over to make kind of a lanyard loop of sorts, and the remainder of that tail is going to kind of get laid back on here. So I might have too much material, but we're going to see. So, interesting conundrum has popped up. If I lay this tail down like I want to in the drawing, I'm not going to be able to peen this over. Dude, not really sure what we'll do about that. But that'll be interesting. Alright, I think I'm going to hold off for now. You know, the original example has got the lanyard loop and then like 3 of these little squiggles. I've only got the 1. Aesthetically, I'm not sure if I like that better or not. But right now I do have it a little bit offset with hopes of being able to peen that over. And then maybe I'll heat that back up and just kind of scooch the tail back over. But I'm going to just call it a day on this and do some thinking and see what we can do. But overall, happy with this. It's looking pretty close to the example. It's funny, I got a chance to look at the original, and I never got a photo of this area right here, which is pretty important. But live and learn. So on the end of the tail here, I just made some chisel marks here to kind of visually represent the rattle of like a rattlesnake's rattle per the customer's request. So pretty simple, but nice little touch, I think. Okay, so the customer asked for an antler handle, so got this nice piece of elk antler that I got from a pet store. I already had the ends cut off like this, so I've got a piece measured out. It's fairly straight. It's got a good full feel to it. Interior of the guard itself measures actually 4 inches, pretty much exactly in between here. So we'll cut this down. I'll try to leave a little bit of extra so I can kind of grind the shape and kind of finesse that in. So we'll just cut this down, get it drilled out, and then we'll do a burn through tang. Alrighty, so we got the antler handle seated on here well. I think that looks pretty darn sharp. It's a great piece of antler for this this type of D-guard build, so it's actually nice and solid, even
without any glue or peening, which is exactly what we're looking for. Do a little bit of sanding just so that the antler is flush with the guard there, but it's actually pretty darn close. So this all worked out real well. Happy about that. I ended up pulling the tail off to the side so that I can peen over the tang, and then I'll heat up just this area with a torch and bend this back over, bring it back in. Yeah, we can go ahead and start grinding this bad boy. Alright, so we got the blade rough ground. Pretty happy with that. So now we'll get the blade quenched, and then later on I'm going to do a little bit more on the guard by this tang area here. You can see we have the edges of the antler kind of protruding. So normally I would just sort of grind this down, but I really like the full kind of antler feel. I don't want to have to, like, you know, take off a bunch of antler and then you have all that white inner antler exposed. There's going to be a little bit of that, but I want to try to keep it this solid brown color as much as possible, because I think this just looks so cool. And from looking at the historical example a little bit more closely, this is actually quite flared out around here on this tang area, and I neglected to do that when I was forging this out. But what I think I am going to do is weld on some extra steel here so that we have a solid piece of metal underneath this antler. So kind of cheating a little bit, but I think it'll overall make the knife look a little bit better. We'll get the blade quenched and tempered, and I'll get working on trying to do something about this guard. Alright, blade's good and hard, good and straight as well. So we'll get this in the oven and get it tempered. Alright, so I got the guard all welded up and ground and cleaned up, so I'll try doing a linseed oil finish on it. Let's see how that goes. Alright, so there's what it looks like, pretty uniform black coating. I think the next stage is gluing the antler handle on and getting it peened over, and we can sharpen it up and realign our tail. Alright, so now we're going to glue and peen our handle onto the blade. I did a little bit of sanding on the antler itself, and you know, kind of revealed that white core, which, you know, I kind of wanted to avoid. Aesthetically did not look good. Ended up putting some of my leather dye on here, and it you know, browned it up, and it kind of kind of helps it blend a little bit better. So that's what's going on here. We've got everything lined up. See our tang poking out there. We just slide this off. Now we got to fill this antler with epoxy. I already got my G-Flex epoxy all mixed up, so we're good to go there. We have to take this antler off, and then we'll slide it back onto here. We're sticking up a little bit, but I think that's the best we're going to be able to do. I think it'll work, but I think it looks good. Guess we'll have to call that done on this. Alright, so we got the blade pretty much finished. Just got to do the final edge here. So we're going to start with the false edge and then do the true edge. Got a 120 grit belt, and we'll use that to get this thing sharp. Alright, so we got the took the blade inside, sharpened it up on the work sharp. This thing is good and sharp now. Let's look at that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, son. Alright, only thing left to do is do a proper cutting test on this bad boy. Alright, well here's a closer look at the finished Snake Slayer buoy, or Snake Slayer D-guard I should say, kind of a play on my comically dubbed Yankee Slayer buoy, because this is sort of a Confederate D-guard with the snake motifs. So this was a fun build, challenging build. It was cool to kind of do a historic knife that I was able to see in person, one that probably isn't known at all up until this video. I don't know. So it's cool the customer, saw that story on Instagram and remembered it and asked me to make it for him. So really happy with the way this one turned out. This piece of antler was just about perfect for this. This thing feels great in the hand. This feels absolutely badass to hold and swing around. This extended tail here does sort of chafe the bottom of my hand there, but wearing a glove mitigates that, as you saw me do in the video. With a glove on, I don't notice it at all. You know, something to be aware of if you want me to make one of these in the future, or if you're doing your own like this. From trying to replicate this from the photos that I took, I have a lot of respect for the original Smith, especially in the handle area. He had a little bit more blacksmithing details in there. You could tell he knew what he was doing. I didn't quite follow that knife to the exact detail, but it definitely motivates me to become a better blacksmith, which I'm always trying to do. I think that the snakehead came out really good. I like the detail of the eyes, kind of trying to follow the historic example, doing the kind of dimples in there. The snake scales. Here's how the scales came out. Doing that linseed finish kind of disguised them a little bit, but they're there. There's our tail. Kind of a neat idea that you can use that as a lanyard loop. Trying to do that tang there, peening that tang was definitely a challenge, but we got it. Yeah, so this is an 18-inch blade, so this thing is a very impressive cutter. Got a really good edge on it. So for the cutting test, I tried doing all the different cutting angles that you'll find in kind of the knife fighting manuals and knife fighting systems. They all kind of have different names for the cuts, different numbers, but the angles of attack are all pretty much the same. So I wasn't following any particular system, but I just sort of wanted to put this through the paces and just try swinging this around in a variety of different ways. Didn't want to cut anything too hard, chop through any wood, because this is a custom knife going to a customer, so I don't want to risk damaging it. It's pretty heavy. It's about a little over 2 pounds. We got a little bit extra mass with the steel of the guard here, and it is a 18-inch blade, but it handles nicely. Kind of helps balance it out versus a normal D guard. So there we go. There's our balance point. So definitely blade heavy, but you got enough weight towards the hand that it actually handles quite well. Nice sharp back cut. So the cutting with the false edge was fairly effortless, but you saw I got nice clean cuts on all the milk jugs, and some of those were kind of difficult angles, kind of botched the ascending cut, but still got a piece of that milk jug. So here is the sheath that I did for it. Customer, this is basically all per the customer's request. He wanted the kind of brass tack decorations, and we kind of came up with this design looking at some historic examples. This sort of box with the wings is actually his family cattle brand, so he had me Dremel that. He had me put that onto the blade as well. It's fairly subtle, but it is there, and he wanted this as well. But I think the sheath came out really nice looking. Definitely fits the knife well, and kind of completes the overall aesthetic of this knife. So he wanted the sheath to have a stud with the removable frog, and then he also, so there's what the sheath looks like with just the stud, and then he wanted the frog to be adjustable so that it could possibly fit other big knives or swords. So I put these buckles on here so you could cinch it down. Also wanted snaps on the belt loop, so I put the pull dot snaps on there, which can be a little tricky to get used to at first, but basically you have to open them from the bottom. They won't open this way, which is good because then it's securely on your belt and you don't have to worry about it just sort of popping off as if you're using standard snaps. So I wouldn't recommend using standard snaps for something like this. You wouldn't want to risk it accidentally coming off. So, and to put them on, they have to go on from the sort of top edge first. So you have to kind of line it up and sort of angle it on like that. But once you get the hang of it and kind of know how it works, it's fairly easy to do. He also wanted a 45-degree angle on the belt loop so that it would kind of be canted on the belt, so I did that for him as well. And then he also wanted, as a little bit of a bonus, a bandolier sling. So I made him a bandolier that fits 44 Magnum rounds. So this is kind of new and fun for me to make. So we have a buckle on there 4 adjustments, and then I made a little bit of a angled piece right here. Whoops! I made this the bottom of the sling angled like this, so that the belt loop can ride right in here. So definitely fun to make. Very interesting aesthetic overall. This is the kind of custom work I like to do, where customer has an idea that pushes me towards the direction that I wouldn't normally take, but ends up with a cool and unique result. So if you want me to make you your own custom knife, find my Etsy web store and send me a message on there. I have a link in the description box. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook to keep up with my latest and greatest work, and you can also get a hold of me through there. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support, and until next time, be more Viking.